Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life Podcast.
Welcome to the Towing Life Podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I am your host, Towman G, and as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, friend, and former co-worker, the man with very strong opinions, Mr. Plain Guy.
What is going on, G? What is going on?
It looked like you choked on your coffee when I was doing the intro.
No, I realized that I had a little bit of phlegm built up that I was trying to clear out before I actually had to speak.
Okay.
And it is still slightly sitting there. I find that's the thing about first thing in the morning when we do recordings, is that I'm still phlegmed up from the night before. Welcome to joy of being a smoker. It happens. We've all been there. If you haven't, congrats on you. Good for you.
Yeah, gotta love the bad habits.
Exactly. So caffeine, nicotine, my two best friends.
Fast food, preferably.
Yes, Asian fast food. Don't know what it is about Asian fast food. I love Asian fast food. Anyway,
What is Asian fast food?
what do you mean?
I've never had Asian fast
Like
food.
like a Thai Express or a Wok Box or Yeah,
I'm an uncultured swine, I guess.
You are. No one's ever denied that fact. That is 100% a true thing. So, as G said, welcome to episode 141 of the Towing Life Podcast. We've got some great stuff once again on tap. Before we get into it, it is a good time to mention your questions, comments, concerns, everything are always appreciated on the show. So where can you find it? You can head over to thetowinglife@gmail.com is where you can email us, thetowinglife@gmail.com. Visit our website at www.towinglife.ca or find us over on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast. If you're watching over on the YouTube side, you can always comment down below. Be sure while you're there to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notified when new episodes come out. You guys are what make the show worthwhile, whether it be us doing it for you or your input into the show. So don't forget to do all that. Have your say on the show and keep our continuing efforts relevant.
You could be like Joe in last week and just take up half our podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Joe. So I had a fun little week before we get into the deep downs of towing. My dog, for the first time in 6 years, has found out why you don't play with the stinky kitties with the white stripe.
Oh.
Yep.
Wonderful.
It still lingers slightly.
Yeah.
We've almost gotten it all out at 11 o'clock at night. I let my dog out to go to the washroom before we go to bed. And so I have a German Shepherd, and she is down off the patio and she is nose to the ground. She has a scent of something. And so I'm kind of ignoring it, scrolling on my phone, not really paying attention. All of a sudden, I can still hear it going, chasing, looking around the yard. And I'm like, what is going on? And all of a sudden I smell skunk. And I go, okay, Sasha, in the house now, let's go. And so she runs, pees, which is what she was out there to do in the first place, and comes running in. And I'm like, oh man, there's a skunk out there somewhere. And I close the door when I get her inside, and all of a sudden I can smell the skunk. And I'm like, oh, you got it. So it wasn't a direct, I don't believe, spray. I don't think she ever actually seen the skunk.
Yeah.
It was where it snuck out of our yard. It's a fenced in yard where it snuck out. There's leaves and all that. And I think it sprayed when it was running. And then she rubbed her face. It was in the leaves, rubbed up all on it. And she absolutely stunk. And it is, have you ever had the encounter? Have you ever had a dog sprayed?
Not a dog, but I've been around skunks that have sprayed.
Yeah. It's almost impossible to get off in the first shot. Like my wife and I had some concoction of baking powder because they say don't get them wet. Like do not just take a hose to it right away. It's the worst thing you can do. It spreads it. Yeah. So we've got a concoction of dish soap and baking soda and you make that and you rub the whole dog in it, and we're doing that in our living room or our kitchen at 11:30 at night, and then like got to get the dog into the bathtub after. You gotta let it sit for half an hour, get the dog into the bathtub, and then start grabbing anything that she touched when she came in, because she went right to her bed because she thought she was in trouble. So her bed stunk, and you clean it all, and it smells like skunk is one smell. Skunk is not a great smell, but when they get sprayed, it smells like burnt skunk.
Yeah,
like that's how I can describe it. It's very burnt, and it's amazing because you do all this cleaning. You go, okay, I think we got it all. You go to work the next day, you come back, you walk in the door, and you're like, poof, no, it's still in the house. You know, we're changing filters on our furnace. We're just doing everything to try and get that smell out.
Bother. That's
yeah. It was a late, unexpected night. That's for sure.
That makes me worry because I don't have a bathtub. I got a stand-up shower.
Right.
So like that instance would be definitely hard, because the old wives' tale that you used to be told was fill the bathtub up with tomato soup, put the dog in
like tomato juice. Yeah, I've heard that. Like wash them in tomato juice. Yeah.
Yeah, and that gets the stink out. Apparently, I think it just kind of masks the smell with tomato juice.
No, there's something with the acid. There's something with the acid in the tomato, because it's an oil. Like the spray is like an oil. And so, no, for anyone that ever, because my wife was sure to yell at me when I told her that this happened, do not get them wet. You you make a paste of baking powder, baking soda. I don't know what the different thing is. Baking soda. And that Arm & Hammer stuff you leave in your fridge forever. Baking soda and dish soap, and you make like a paste with it and rub them all down with that. Let it sit for about 30 minutes in their fur, and then give them, in your case, take the hose to them. Right. And don't forget, your dog's got a shorter haired dog. Right. Mine with the German Shepherd with the fluffy, like she's a short haired German Shepherd, but it's like a husky, right? Like it's getting under there.
Yeah.
And so it was a very unexpected night.
Well, you didn't need a coffee when you got home because the smell would wake you up.
Oh man, did it ever hit you? And it's stuck in your nose that night when you go to bed, and it was terrible.
I wonder what the dogs smell like. I wonder if
it's got to be terrible.
Yeah, but they're going after the smell.
Yeah, but I think they're going after the smell because instinct is, this is my yard. I've got to get, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's, ooh, this smells nice. Let me see what it is. Like, I don't think that theory applies. But no, not her smartest moment. Like I said, first time in 6 years. It's always bound to happen. I think it's something that I know people that their dog gets sprayed every year. Right. Like, so, I mean, or multiple times a year. So
they just don't learn.
No, 100%. I think my dog has learned. She was the saddest looking thing. I should have posted a picture up while we were giving her the bath that night. She was not happy about this. So, that and the other thing I wanted to touch in, Mrs. Plain Guy and I, who we had on the show, right? My wife celebrated as of yesterday, actually, our 10-year anniversary.
Nice.
6 years married, 4 years together. I was smart, gentlemen. I married my wife on our anniversary. That way I didn't have to remember a new one.
Smart.
Yeah.
That is smart.
It's very easy to remember. So congratulations to her on having the pleasure of being my partner for 10 years. Lord knows that, that's a gift in its own. Yeah.
Congratulations to her to be able to put up with you for 10 whole years.
It's she's got it pretty easy. Let me put it that way. She's got it pretty easy. She doesn't think so, but okay.
No, I don't think anyone who listens to this show thinks that being with you for 10 years would be an easy task.
Gee, we've known each other almost 10 years, and it's been an absolute treat for you as well.
Yeah, because I've lived like 600 kilometers away from you for the majority of it. I have to see you once a week.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So, all right. That being said, it is time to actually get into towing related content for our wonderful listeners who are here for that. First thing I want to talk about, we'll get to the older stuff kind of first.
Well, it's older to us. It's new to you, regardless.
Yeah, it's new content for you, but it's older on us. It's stuff that we wanted to talk about last week that we didn't get to.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. So we'll get to it this week. Everyone has heard the saying across the towing industry, and I hate the saying, but it's true, is if it fits, it ships, right?
Mm-hmm.
That has been a joking subject that has been put along in the towing industry for years.
Mm-hmm.
And this hot shot trailer guy posted above decided to put that to the test.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if he's actually a towing company or related to any towing companies, but he's obviously heard the saying and said, if they can do it, so can I. Out in BC, if I'm not mistaken, this was, or somewhere on the West Coast. I think it was BC though.
Mm-hmm.
A gentleman decided he's got a dovetail gooseneck tandem axle trailer.
Looks about 25 feet long.
Give or take.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And he decided that he was going to load a 40-foot sea container onto said trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So he has this trailer, if you can imagine, flat with the dovetail section of the trailer, coming straight up over the flat deck, resting on the gooseneck, and
Mm-hmm.
overhanging the entire cab of his F250, F350 single rear wheel, maybe.
Yep.
A clear violation. Like I always look at these things and go, God, that's dumb. But God, I appreciate the effort. Like,
the effort it would have taken to get it on that angle, like to rest it on the gooseneck and to get it and get the ramps up. The reason why this guy probably just didn't butt it right up to the gooseneck and let it overhang was the ramps wouldn't come off. And he probably didn't want to try to strap up the ramps.
maybe. Like I said, I don't know all the details to it. I just know that it's dumb. But what's crazy about it being dumb is that it took some intelligence to secure it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like to get it rigged up. Like it is 100% stupid. I don't know what his height is, but BC's got a history of people hitting overpasses. I feel like this guy might have been next on that list. It's hard to tell when you use the truck as a scale, right? Like if you put that truck at 7 feet tall, like a truck's like, a truck like that's probably 6 foot at least, right? Most 1500s or over 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
So you can double, let's say 6.5. You double that, he's at 13.
Yeah.
There's still another couple feet above that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like again, we're guessing at numbers, but if you double the height of that truck, I think there's still another foot or two above that.
Yep.
And I don't know what the height laws are in BC. I know that in Ontario, it is 13.6 is your max height. Yep. You can run up to 14 foot with a permit.
Mm-hmm.
And oversize and all that kind of stuff, which this guy has none of. But I'm going to say this guy's everything good at 15 feet.
Oh, yeah.
So just because it fits, just because you find a way to make it on a platform and secured, I see straps. I see extra wood rails that he's kind of put in. Like I see some thought that went into this.
Mm-hmm.
But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because it fits doesn't mean it should ship. It's my advice for the day. Plain guys, advice of the week. Just because it fits doesn't mean it should ship. I think that's pretty solid. Anything else you want to add to this confuckery?
Well, I mean, the height thing is something that you always got to watch out for. Wreckers, flatbeds, hauling shit on decks like this. But I think it's easier to have the mindset of if it fits, it ships towards weight on flatbeds or on trailers like this. On wheel lifts, if you're overweight, you can feel it because your front tires come up off the ground and you're SOL, right? If you're overweight. But on decks, it's a lot easier just to be like, it fits. I'll just hammer down the road. Your rear axle could be way overweight. Your tires could be way overweight. But it's up on the deck, so why do you care, right? As long as the deck folds up, you're going down the road. Fuck it, right?
I'd have to look at this, depending on if that C-cam's empty. Like, weight isn't really an issue on this one.
No, it's not.
Like, weight, it might be. Again, I'd have to, see the specs and go over it and, see if there's anything in that can, whatever. But, like, empty C-cans are not overly heavy. So,
even
weight
with
might
all
be the
that
only
doors,
thing.
that 40-foot can, maybe 8,000 pounds?
Yeah, 85.
85.
Somewhere around there, let's say. So yeah, and like if I was 8,500 pounds on that trailer, he's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, weight is at least the dimensions a little bit come into play.
Mm-hmm.
No, 100%. Like, I don't know how many guys carry, if they don't, they should. There's so many people that don't carry like height sticks. Like that is one thing that we put in all of our floats.
Mm-hmm.
Not our light duty stuff, because our light duty stuff is just doing cars and
Yeah.
vans, and like you can measure a cube truck, and we know what our set height is that it has to be under and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start to get into these like weird pieces of equipment, like the one I sent you the other day with the telehandler,
Mm-hmm.
and all that, like height sticks are hugely important.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember there was a load that came into our yard from a wreck, and was it the highway tractor? Yeah, it was the highway tractor. The highway tractor was tall. We brought it into our yard on a lowboy.
Mm-hmm.
And we were everything of just under 14 feet.
Yeah.
Right? So we have permit. We were running on permit. Everything was legit. We brought it back to our yard after a wreck. A company comes and picks it up. And he loads it up onto a landau.
Mm.
Right? And so I'm looking at it and I go, buddy, I think you're over height. And he goes, no, I have permit.
Mm.
I'm like, so do I. And I know what your permit is good for, and it is not good. I'm like, if I was everything of 14 on my lowboy, you're at least a foot higher. Okay, let me talk to the boss. Okay. This is after this guy struggled to get this thing on. Like, this was an adventure getting this truck on.
Yeah.
Calls his boss. I go in the office. 2 minutes later, I look out. He's honking to get let out of the yard. Good luck to you, sir. Enjoy those power lines on the way down the road. Please
because
don't take
can't you get like a generic over height permit in Ontario?
Yeah, so your over dimension that you're allowed is up to 14 feet.
Yeah.
And then anything past that, you're starting to get into escorts, and you know, there's a lot more to it. It's not just you know, you can just, I have this permit. No, with permit, because you shouldn't hit anything under 14 feet.
Yeah.
Power lines are nowhere near 14 feet. Like 13.6 is your max height, but unless marked, there's nothing. Like, you know, you get bridges that are marked below.
13.8 or whatever.
Yeah. So you got to have some, you know, and different areas. Again, this is Ontario. I don't know how the states work for permits for the oversize and stuff. But yeah, you can get permits for that. This guy was definitely way overweight or way over height. I think we ended up hearing, because I think one of the guys went out with a measuring stick, and I think he was 15.2. And I was like, you don't want to, like, I don't know what you're going to do with it, because, you know, short of knocking the fairing off the top of the highway tractor, right? Like, you're not going to gain a foot no matter what you do. But or I guess 14 inches in that case. But no, he was dead set, and he sent the goddamn thing. And
you didn't hear anything on the news about a tractor hitting an overpass or anything. So I guess whatever route he took was good.
Was the right one. Yeah. No matter what he did, he figured it out. So yeah, no. So just because it fits doesn't mean it should ship. Moral of the story.
Yeah.
A little bit sad. Oh, not really sadder news, I guess. It's still, we hate to see it. But my understanding was there was no injuries or fatalities in it. There was a tow truck flatbed hit down in Illinois, to my understanding. It was a beautiful tandem with a lift, orange flatbed that looks like a transport ran over it, taking out the cab. I'm not sure if that's an NRC deck, but if it is, it looks like it withstood it.
Pretty sure it is an NRC deck. I think I've seen that truck in NRC Facebook pages before.
Okay, very possible, very possible. Yeah, so loading up, it looks like on the side of an interstate. Again, slow down, move over, right? We can't talk about it enough. There was some minor injuries, I think, to some vehicles, some people in some vehicles, like maybe the transport driver.
Well, yeah, we've got two cars up on, two vehicles up on their lids, semi on its side. The flatbed has no cab left. They Dukes of Hazzard that deck, and they ripped the winch right off. That's a strong hydraulic cable, because hydraulic cable holding the winch just dangling off the side of the truck.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a hard hit. I don't know what vehicle. I'm assuming he was loading one of these vehicles. We never did figure out which one. If I had to guess, I would say the white one on the opposite side of the barrier.
Yeah.
if I was playing my best traffic cop
Mm-hmm.
version, I would say that white vehicle was being loaded, got hit at the angle, which sent it off the bed that way. And the transport and the other car just barely hitting the bed, or I'm guessing maybe the transport landed on the car, hit the car, however the hell it worked. I don't know. That part is irrelevant. I'm just saying the white car that's on its roof on the other side of the barrier is more than likely the car that that was being loaded, the disabled casualty at the time. What a traffic nightmare that would create. I love there's no cones or anything up yet. It must have just happened. Like, fire's got the whole other side blocked off for the one car.
Yeah.
And then this side, they're just like single filing it around the shoulder.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 different pictures in this group, and in each picture you could see more emergency equipment arriving on scene and blocking off more things.
Yeah.
So like these pictures were fresh.
Yeah, they were like in progression of this incident happening. So no, we hate to see it. We're glad to hear the operator is okay and nobody was hurt or killed in this, because I mean, it can happen that fast. And yeah, there's sometimes you get away with one. And I think that driver and operator got away with one.
So now let me ask you this: if that was you in that position, you were running that truck, would you stay in the towing industry after that?
I don't know. I don't think that's a fair question. I mean that in the sense that I don't think until you're in that situation you can make that. I mean, I've had my fair
trauma that you would have after that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, right. Like I've had my fair share of close calls and problems in the towing industry throughout, the whatever years I'm at now. So I'd like to say that yes. I'd like to say that it would, the only thing that might get me out is being in that cab when the guy hit it. But I don't know. I think a lot of people, our industry is full of macho men, right? That would be like, yeah, no, that's just nothing. That's a Monday around here. And then you get the realist that would go like, no, I think so. Like, I think that could be something that would push me out of the industry for good. And I don't think anyone would blame someone for getting pushed out of the industry because of that.
No.
Like, I think if you dodge that bullet, and that's dodging a bullet. That's not just, I had a close call. I got winged by a car. That's happened. That was like, you weren't going to be able to identify the body very easily kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it happened. And yeah, I don't think you blame anyone for it, but I don't think anyone can really say, unless they were involved in that directly, whether they would want to continue in the towing industry or not.
I wonder if the operator bought a lottery ticket that morning.
I wouldn't. You already got your win, man.
No, I mean, like, before this. So let's say that guy bought the winning lottery ticket in the morning and used up all his luck on buying that lottery ticket, when that would have happened later on in the day.
You don't buy it after, because you've already won.
Yeah.
People always say that you're lucky, lucky you should buy a lottery ticket. No, because you've already used up your luck.
Yeah.
I don't think luck is, luck is kind of a weird thing, but at the same time, no, you've definitely used up your luck. So do not, we don't wish that upon anybody. But hey, the fact that everyone walked away is probably the godsend. And you know what? It's crazy, because photos like that photo, just because of the scale of it, isn't something that'll just circulate within our echo chamber, as we call it. That is more likely to get out into the public. And I don't think it has an effect on the public the way that it should, but I think it's a good, an operator hit and killed, as terrible as it is. And we've talked with people, that have had family members and coworkers that have had it happen, or that have been hit themselves, right? Or Mr. Bush that we had way back, you got to go check that episode out, who was hit on the side of the road in one of those viral videos that we've seen all over the towing industry. We see it and go, oh my God, and eye opener, and wake up. The public sees it and goes, oh, I guess, like, yeah, maybe you should move over. But then it's gone.
Yep.
Then it's on to the Huck Tua girl, or the, you know what I mean? Like, it lives very quickly in their minds for a very short period of time. It doesn't have any long lasting effect, whereas it has a longer lasting effect. Don't get me wrong. I still see those videos, and then I still see the Huck Tua girl. But It's it lives a little more rent free a little longer in my mind than I think it does in the general public or in your mind or in the towing industry, anyone in the towing industry's mind.
It all comes down to a basic road etiquette, right? Like, I'm not sure about where you, the listener, is, but for me, the further I get away from the city, the more courteous drivers are. That could just because they're not so much in a rush. They're more willing to say, hey, that guy's another person over there, and maybe I should give him some space. You can see it very easily just like in the 2-lane highway roads, like the 4-lane divided highways. Everyone pretty much drives in the right lane. They get into the left lane to pass, and then they get back into the right lane. And then you see that one guy from the city just driving in the left lane the whole time. And once you get down into the city, it's a free for all, anyways. So you have that type of roadway etiquette, I want to call it, just because it's kind of sort of the law, but it's also just helping out your fellow motorists. And there is situations, so let's say you're behind a 53-foot van trailer and you can't see around it. You're coming through a set of lights, you can't see the light because you're behind the van trailer. You can't see what's on the side of the road. The good thing to realize if you are coming around a corner and you are following a semi is, was there anything in front of that semi? No. So as soon as you see that left turn signal come on to get into the other lane, you should be thinking about doing the same. If he can see but you can't, you should just kind of automatically follow the person in front of you's direction. Because by the time that gentleman or lady, whoever driving that rig in front of you gets over, you might already be upon someone working on the side of the road, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the trick is to not be that far up a 53-foot ass that you can't see, right? Because that is a scary thing. And we've seen that wreck happen, right? We have all seen videos of that wreck where a car moves over and then because there's something stopped at the last second and the car behind it, because they're just focused on their taillights, just drive into it, whether it be a car or truck or any of the whatnot. So no, road etiquette is slowly, I don't know. I see flashes like the Americans, no offense, or actually it's no offense meant at all. I will take a drive down the 81 every day of the week over a drive down the 401.
Yep.
I've driven the 81. Their trucks can drive. They're not limited. Don't forget that too, right? So you don't have this Daytona 500 of the,
passing each other at 1 kilometer an hour over the guy you're trying to get.
I don't know. The drivers seem to be just overall better quality. I mean, they've got some wild roads, and every time I look, there's not random marks through the median or sections of guardrail that need replacing.
Yep.
So there is something to be said there. Now, I recently took a drive up to where was it? Where'd I go? Smooth Rock Falls, Cochrane, Ontario. So it's a hike.
Yep.
It's northern. I think you can consider that northern Ontario. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Right. Ontario goes pretty goddamn far north.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that threshold exactly lies. But anyways, they've got to figure it out because they're a 2-lane highway for the majority part of that. Now, the nice thing is, though, is that they have constant passing zones. And the passing zones are 90% on the uphill.
Yep.
Which makes the most sense, right? Because that's where your loaded transports are going to struggle.
Yep.
Right. It does suck when you can't get, up past one and then you're stuck for the next because they'll tell you next one's in like 10 kilometers.
Yep.
Then they also have the oncoming ones, like the oncoming passing sections where you actually can use the middle lane.
Yep.
You have to yield it to them, but it's like, but it's like using a regular checkered passing, section, as long as it's clear and safe to do so. And it is really well structured.
Yep.
Right? Because every time you get some hills up there, you're not going to be stuck behind a guy for 50, 60, 70 kilometers, which means you're less likely to make a stupid move.
Yep.
Right? You're less likely to try and make a pass in a bad area if you know that there's one coming in 2 kilometers. Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be some idiot who is going to, still do the stupid move right before the passing zone. Right? Like you're still going to see that, but it was really nice. The only part of that trip that was scary to me is they had a section probably about 30 kilometers, give or take. So not doing the conversion for our American listeners, but about 30 kilometers of fresh asphalt. So black.
Mm-hmm.
No markings that I could see on it, or little squares.
Dots, yeah.
Yeah, little dots at night.
Mm.
And it was raining.
Yep.
There's construction barrels on both sides. And you were using those kind of as a guide to know where your side is. And you've got, if anyone knows this term, I'm a big fan of it, Mississauga missiles, coming head on at you at 105.
Yep.
And you're hoping that they know where the lane is, because a lot of times they don't know where the lane is on a clearly marked highway, let alone in the dark, in the curves, up and down the hills at, for that length of time. So that was definitely a sketchy time, but road etiquette kicked in. And it's true, guys stayed behind each other like no one was passing, because it is a construction zone. We knew no one was working in the construction zone. It was pouring rain. Yep. It was pouring rain at night. No one's working there. Yeah. But no, the road etiquette is definitely something that I feel like you see flashes of improvement, and then you see just absolute terrible drivers out there that make you question it all.
Well, even off the highway. So like, I've grown up in a fairly rural area. So I grew up on dirt and gravel roads, and there is people out there that have never been down a dirt or gravel road before in their life. And the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour. Normally, these are fairly tight roads. A lot of times there can be bushes overgrowing, mailboxes too close to the road. So you normally drive in the center of the road.
When there's no oncoming. Yeah,
exactly. And when you do see someone oncoming, the appropriate thing to do would be to slow down a little bit, whether that's 60, drop down to 60, drop down to 54, whatever, and pull over to the right.
Yeah, and to make sure that you guys go by each other and then you can reaccelerate, correct?
Exactly, because I don't know if you've ever been driving down a gravel road and the guy oncoming is doing 95 because he's doing his 15 over and kicks up a piece of gravel and that hits your windshield. That's not pleasant. It's not pleasant at all. It can cause stone chips. It can scratch your paint, and it could also disorient the driver if he gets a piece of gravel bang into his windshield. That's what.
Well, not to mention the dust trail
right?
That's normally thrown up behind you that you're gonna have to slow down anyways, because the oncoming car, you can't see past the guy because of the dust trail he's got behind them. Like, there's some courtesies that apply. Yeah. But again, idiots, right? Idiots. 90% of it's idiots. I hate to pick on them, but absolute idiots, like that just again have never driven on a dirt road and just go, bah! Like these are the people that just know to put it in drive. That's all they know.
The same thing is, you're on the same gravel road and there's a couple of people walking, going the opposite direction. You slow down. I normally slow down to like 30, 40. And how much time does it take out of my day? I might waste 40 seconds in the time I slow down, pass them, and reaccelerate. Ooh, 40 seconds out of my day. Just to make sure those people are in a safer environment, because I am in control of their environment at that moment in time.
40 seconds in a day that you will not be able to recruit those people to your convent because you slowed down to go by them.
Yeah. Now, if I took 2 minutes out of my day, I could have stopped and had a conversation and maybe got them in the back of my truck and back to the convent.
You're doing it wrong. See,
I'm doing it wrong.
So, when you're passing people walking down the side of a gravel road, you are not to slow down, and you are to stop.
Yeah.
Ask if they believe in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And ask them if they want to take a ride in your pickup truck back to the Holy Land, where they will be accepted for who they are, and abandoned of all their sins. Sorry if there's any Bible thumpers listening that I offend. But yeah, no, it's 100% true. It's especially when you're in a 4,000, 5,000 pound piece of steel rolling down the road. You have responsibilities, and I think that's what a lot of it comes down to, is people don't realize the responsibilities the same way the drivers don't realize the responsibilities they have in their tow trucks. You are not driving a Honda Civic. You are driving in upwards of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You can continue on and on and on of thousands of pounds of units. You have a lot of responsibility in your hands. The etiquette is, guys, it was a 50. I was only doing 60. If you're doing 60 in a loaded tow truck, Like that is where the speed limit more applies to you. You want to do 90 and an 80 loaded, I'm okay with it. 60 and a 50 loaded, no. There's no need for it.
No.
Extra braking, extra everything. You're in the town. Like, you know, there's things that come into it. We recently had, it was really funny. We have a guy who called a little while back to our company and complained because our drivers went by with Jake brakes on. And he's a former trucker I don't know. And he knows that we don't need Jake brakes and it's a residential zone. First of all, it's not a residential zone. It's a 70-kilometer-an-hour section leading out of the city where there's like 4 houses. The rest is all farmland.
Yeah.
And it comes up to a light. So 70-kilometer-an-hour road up to the light. Guys use their Jakes. Hey, you get into these bigger rotators and stuff. These things weigh 80, 90,000 pounds loaded or empty, right? So calls the one day, complains. My dispatch gives him my number. He leaves me a voicemail. Hey, you know, he's a bit arrogant about it, but not too bad. Right? I'm tired of you guys Jake brakes and blah, 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 blah. All it's used for is to pump out your chests and da, 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 da. So listening to the voicemail, I didn't feel that there was a need to respond to him. It didn't look like he was looking for a response. He just wanted somebody to yell at. No problem. He calls back again one day. Driver using Jake brakes. Okay. I'm going to follow up with this guy. Get busy. Don't get a chance to follow up with him that day. Yesterday, guy calls and says, I'd like a rotator. What? Yeah, I want a rotator up in this town. Okay, well, what do you got? What do you like? What's your name? No, I'm not giving you my name. My name's Fucky McFuckface. That's what he said. I quote. Da 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 da. And he's like, well, I can't just send you a rotator. Like, I need to know what's going on. I need photos, whatever. He's like, oh, but you guys can drive around with your Jake brakes all day. And my dispatch just hear me goes, oh, it's you again. And he goes, yeah. And this guy goes on a tangent. And so he calls me and he lets me know. And I'm like, okay. So I did a little research, went back to my voicemail, found the guy's name, found out where he lived. And I said, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to have a conversation. Not a dick. You cannot approach it as I'm going to show up at your house and be a dick. Yeah. Especially because he doesn't want to leave his name. We have his phone number because caller ID. He left a name the first time a Google search showed that he worked for a crane company, which I think is where maybe the problem comes from. I'm guessing we might have hurt his feelings with a rotator at one point in our lives. And I just showed up at his house. I knew about where he lived because of the traffic complaints, like the Jake braking.
There's only like 4 houses there.
There's only like 4 houses there, but like, no, I got the address and I pull into his driveway or park out on the road, in front. And he comes up in a vehicle behind me. I'm like, hey, you must be Mr. Jake brake. Yeah. And we had a conversation about it. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. It's just, it's a lot. And his house is set back like a good 200 feet from the road. And our trucks are like, we have a couple trucks that are loud. Yeah. But like,
they do sound good though.
But they're not waking you up. Yeah. Like they're not. And like today it was 7:30 in the morning, the day that he complained. It's not 2 a.m. Like we don't run these things at 2 a.m. coming down there. But 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sure. And so I had a conversation. I said, look, here's what I'm going to do. Here's my personal cell phone number. Next time you have a problem, you call me. Right? You call me. I will have a talk with my guys. Yeah. Sure. But my dispatch does not need your shit. Yeah. Like that part I made very clear. My staff does not need your abuse. You have a problem, you can talk to me. We can have a conversation about it. Yep. But to just keep calling over and over again and just absolutely getting a chance to tear a strip. And it's funny because he tore a strip on the phone. And my dispatcher, I'm not going to lie, gave it right back to him.
Good.
Right? Like it was not his best customer service experience. Was nowhere near it. Yeah. But my dispatch gave it back to him because sometimes you have to. Sometimes on people like that. But what I enjoyed about this guy is when I showed up. Now, again, I'm a big enough guy. I didn't show up in an intimidating way or anything like that. But I love people like him because they just shut up when you show up. He was very apologetic from the beginning. He never swore once. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was like very like, I'm going to watch what I say because now this person is in my face. Like now this person is here. I can't be a tough guy. Yeah. And so that was the part. It was like, you can complain. That's fine. I'll hear you out. But you talk to my staff like that. I'm very much one of those people. You can talk to me however you want. Yeah. You don't hurt my feelings, but you abuse my staff.
Yeah.
we're going to have an issue, right?
That,
Abuse me all you want.
that's one thing I noticed. And so, like, when I was towing, my tow truck was identical to my pickup, only my pickup's a 3500, tow truck's 5500, right?
Right.
Interior, identical. So, jumping from my pickup, where I can drive a little bit more like a dick and fly under the radar, into a
Mhm.
tow truck, it's very easy to get complacent of, I'm just driving a truck. But
Mhm.
everyone else sees that it's a tow truck and
Mhm.
it's got the name on the door. And
Mhm.
I feel like when you scale up in vehicle size, it's a little harder to get into that mentality. And
Mhm.
especially with some of the new trucks out there that drive like go-karts, they can be very
Mhm.
nimble feeling.
Mhm.
It's easy to, oh well, I'm going to do 10, 15 over the speed
Mhm.
limit. I don't have to maintain the good following distance because I'm in control of this vehicle. I know my stopping distance. I could leave 200 feet, but I know I only need about 80 feet to get this rig to stop in this circumstance. And you
Mhm.
get complacent. But the
100%.
general motoring public just sees a big truck flying down the road being an
Yeah.
asshole.
Yep.
But from your eyes, you're like, I'm in control of this vehicle. So you
Yeah.
always got to stop. Well, not stop, but slow down and realize that you always have to worry about the other people, not so much yourself. So you should drive according to what's going on around you. Not just because you feel like you're in control. The guy in front of you might just decide to make a lane change into the car that's driving next to him and
Mhm.
crash in front of you.
Yeah.
Like you just don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the issues, especially once guys get into this industry and start driving these rigs for extended period of time. Always
Mhm.
the first month you get into a new vehicle, you're very cautious, I think.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve for you and you're very polite on the road, giving away your right away to, to be
Mhm.
courteous.
Yeah.
And after that time,
Yeah.
you
You
start
get there's a fake level of confidence that comes
yeah.
out, like a complacency, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when these things can happen. Now, in your instance, the driver using his Jakes, whoop de doo da day.
Yeah.
Like
That's
it,
pretty much my
it's
take on it.
it's it's a
We got
feature on the
bigger problems.
vehicle. It's not like he's going through a 40-kilometer-an-hour subdivision, shoving it down in a second to
Yeah.
to get down to 5 kilometers an hour using his Jakes. Like that's
Yeah.
just not what he's doing.
Yeah.
So in that instance, can you blame the driver? Not really.
Not really.
But if I don't know, like, should he really like be blowing down that road, going that fast? Who knows? If he knows he's
Well, if he's
supposed
going,
to,
but if he's going at 70 and like this light, the way it's set up, like, yeah,
yeah,
you have to have your Jakes on,
yeah,
like for that light. Like that light it's a quick city light because it's a 70-kilometer-hour road. It's not a
mm,
long light,
yeah,
so you know what I mean. Like if you see it farther back, yeah. And I'm not going to encourage my guy to ride his brakes because this guy, again, it's not a residential area. It's
mm,
trucks. Like this route is a main truck route.
yeah,
Right. So, I mean, our tow trucks might be a little louder than, most of the automatic Freightliners you're seeing out there nowadays,
mm-hmm,
but it's not, you know, I don't know. The guy's looking for a reason.
mm-hmm,
And now that he's latched on to something, he is just going to continue.
yeah,
So hopefully our in-person visit, has an effect
mm-hmm,
where it's, you know what I mean? Okay, well, he came out, he talked to me, he's going to try. Okay, if I hear it once or twice, I'll let it go kind of thing. And maybe it might be enough to get this guy onto some new target that he's got, some new hate that he has towards something. We don't know.
yeah,
Only time will tell. That being said, before we go, I wanted to move on to one of the last things that we did have on. Have you ever had an instance, and I have, because I do a lot of quiet price quoting, right? You get a call from a customer. It's sheds. God, I hate sheds.
mm,
Especially when it's like sheds moved on property. Hate those
mm,
jobs.
yep,
You ever, you get a customer calls and, hey, I need this shed moved on my property. It's only going 30 feet, blah, 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 blah. And, it's been sitting there for 20 years, whatever the case is.
mm-hmm,
And you come up and you give them a price. And they go, and that price is your fuck off price.
yeah,
Right. I've definitely been there where I've been like, it's going to be like $600.
yeah,
And they're like, okay, can we book that for tomorrow? And you're like,
fuck,
son of and now you have to do it
yeah,
because A, you priced it, and B, it's normally financially rewarding.
mm-hmm,
But it's like you kind of gave that price. It wasn't to try and screw somebody. It wasn't to whatever. You pretty much gave them that price thinking they would go, I'm going to call the next guy.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's fine because the next guy can have it.
Yeah. Let me get a few other quotes. Yeah.
Exactly. And instead they just go, no, that's fine. And I'm like, oh, no. I've had a couple of those with sheds. I have definitely, sheds have been my killer for that one. Where it's like, all right, this is the price it would be. I really don't want to do it. I'm going to like up it this much and, you know, make it somewhat ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then they go, yeah, okay, we'll take it. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
No.
The
No, I don't want it.
The flatbed fee is going to be $125. Should add an extra $75 for a bullshit fee. Add an extra $100 for labor, and then I'm just going to double it, and that's the fuck off price.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Which again, it's not. You know, when prices are explained ahead of time like this, it's not. I don't believe it's taking advantage of anyone. It's doing the job and then giving them a fucking ridiculous price. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But if you come up with a price and they go okay, and you're like, huh. It's probably one of the worst. I've been guilty of it many times. I've probably gotten screwed on that like 3 or 4 times in the last.
But
3 or
are
4
you getting
years.
screwed because you're making yourself and the company?
Oh,
more
you are,
money?
but you go and you. Like I said, yeah, you're making good money for the work you're doing, and you know you might have to do a bit of slugging, but it's mainly like when it's like my brain doesn't want to work that hard to figure this how to do this one out, and they're like, "Oh, take it," and I'm like, "Oh, now my brain needs to work a lot harder to figure out how I'm going to do this." So yeah, I know the fuck. Like I want to hear. I'm sure everyone in the towing industry who has ever priced a job has a customer accepts your fuck off price story. It has to. I'm not the only one who gets one a year, right? So if you do have a great story of a fuck off price that a customer is absolutely accepted, put it down below in the YouTube comments or email us at thetowinglife@gmail.com. Visit our website, www.towinglife.ca, or visit our Facebook page where you can leave us a message as well at the Towing Life Podcast on Facebook. While you're on the YouTube side, if that's where you are, do not forget to like and comment and subscribe and all that good stuff. If you're listening over on any of the other audio listening sites, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere, there's like 20 of them. I can't remember all of them. Be sure if there is a rate and review option, leave us a review on there. It does help push our podcast into better directions. And your comments, questions, and everything are always appreciated on the show, so do not hesitate. I think it was a fun episode. I'm happy that we did it. I'm now awake and
ready. Be a shorter of an episode this week. Okay.
Well, we're sitting at an hour. We're sitting at 50 minutes. We only lost about 2 minutes on the. Yeah, don't you worry about it, okay?
All right.
We've got things to do, places to be, people to be, and places to see. I think that's what it's called. What? So, on behalf of myself and my wonderful co-host, Mr. Toman G, we appreciate you coming out again. We cannot wait to see you again next week. Take care.
Toodles.